Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Secure the Seat Live. My name is Minda Harts, and I'm so excited that you're here. This is our last episode of Black History Month, so I'm just excited for us to be here. Listen, drop in the chat, who are some of your, favorite trailblazers? We're going to talk about Waymakers today, but who are those Black ancestors, present, current, people that you just are thankful for that trailblazed for us? We want to honor and say their names in the chat. So it may even be one of your relatives. It might be someone that you've learned about throughout history, but those who made ways for us. I would love for us to just honor their legacy, their names, and just put those in the chat, if you will. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you did something that brought you joy, even if just a little bit. Last week, I did this Instagram Live with Cynthia Spiegel, and she has a new book coming out tomorrow called Micro Joys. And she talks about how even in the midst of chaos, how you find those slivers of joy, right? And how grief and joy can exist at the same time. And it really blessed me when you think about it, because we owe ourselves that joy. We deserve that joy. And as Black and Brown people, especially, joy is a form of resistance, right? Because we haven't always been encouraged to be happy and to be joyous. And even though there's a lot going on in the world, there's still a lot to be thankful for. And so thank you all for tuning in each week. If it's your first time, your family, if it's your 100th time, you're part of the squad, you already know the vibes. And so I'm just excited to jump into today. And my sister friend, who has been on the show before, Tara Jaye Frank, she is an amazing person, a consultant, a CEO, an author. If you don't have this book, you're definitely going to want to get it. I have my little bookshelf behind me, and this is, it fuels me. It sits behind me. So whenever I start to think about, why do I do this work? What am I doing? I think about, I have the privilege of being part of being those Waymakers and helping us think about what that could look like. And I wanted to have Tara back on the show. So if you get a chance to watch it the first time, this is going to be good. So get your notes. If you have some questions, pop them in the chat. But I'm going to bring my friend up to the stage. Tara.
Hey, girl. Hey.
How are you?
I'm so good. I had to put my glasses on when I saw you put yours on. I was feeling it already anyway. So thank you for that. I'm so good. And it's always good to be with you. I appreciate you having me back.
Oh, I'm excited. You have such a great book. For those, again, if you haven't purchased it, you can buy it wherever you like to buy your books, and we'll drop the link in the chat. But at a time like this, Tara, well, before we get into it, I'm chomping at the bit to talk about this. For those who may not know about you and your work, please tell everybody a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Well, I consider myself a workplace equity strategist. It's interesting, and I know you know this. Sometimes people call you a DEI expert, and I kind of cringe at that moniker. Not because I'm not grateful or flattered or that, but DEI to me is a humongous space. So much work within it. I really focus on workplace cultures. I really focus on leadership capacity building and helping leaders to lead in new ways so that they can unleash the talent right in their charge and transform their cultures in ways that allow every single person to thrive. So that's the work that I do every day. I work mostly with C-suites in kind of that transformation process, which of course starts in the mind. And then we released Waymakers last year as really kind of a consummate tool, right? To leaders who have a heart to lead differently.
I know that we need some leaders to be leading differently right now. But we talked about that from a DEI perspective, because people will sometimes throw me in that bucket too, and not a DEI practitioner. Do I put DEI streets on occasions? Absolutely. Okay, because of what all we do, each and every one of us should be pushing equity forward. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that. And side note, we'll have to talk about this offline, but my tweets ended up on Fox News. And so, now, now I'm part of the grifters and the DEI, sort of thing, which is really funny when you even talk about what equity means, right? And so your work is so important because we have to reframe the narrative and who gets to decide what's important and whose careers are important and who's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Last year you came out with this amazing book, and I know that more and more people are finding out about it and reading it and diving in. And I just love being on LinkedIn and seeing people sharing and Facebook and all these different places. But tell us, for those who might not know, what is a Waymaker and why do we need to show up in the workplace even more right now as this person or those who are in leadership to be a Waymaker, because a lot of layoffs are taking place. DEI is getting hit and cut
Mm-hmm.
all over the place, and so I'm concerned, my friend, to give us something to hold on to.
Yeah, you're concerned. I mean, as you should be, right? And the question you asked, honestly, is, a whole word in itself, and something we could probably talk about for hours. Just what is a waymaker and why do we need them, especially now? The way I define waymaking is, again, it's someone with a heart to lead, who opens doors for people, removes barriers, and ushers people through to greater levels of contribution. That's how I technically define waymaking. For me, it's different than an ally, though I support allyship. I'm not trying to, put that down. But I think sometimes, the word ally has become cheerleader, right? It has become a way to say an encourager, a supporter. And for me, a waymaker is a little bit different. Waymaking is an active participant, right? Somebody who acknowledges that inequities exist, right? Seeks to deeply understand where those inequities are getting people stuck, sees it as their responsibility, but also their privilege to unstick things, right? To take those barriers out, to help people get over them, around them, through them, and get people to those higher levels of play, right? If that's indeed what they want to do. And we sometimes talk about them as sponsors, but it's not, to me, just about sitting in the room and saying someone's name. It's also about being along for the journey, right? Doing a little bit of, no, not that way, this way, doing a little bit of watch out for that, doing a little bit of you stay right here while I go get that out of the way. That's what waymaking is for me. And to the question of why do we need them, especially now? Oh my gosh, can I read a scripture? I'm not trying to convert your guests.
We do church over at Security.
I mean, I'm not trying, I find, for me, I find value and inspiration in every religion and spiritual practice. And, I say in the book that The Waymakers isn't a religious book, but I am a Christian and I draw inspiration from some of that. And one of the scriptures that I have in there is Isaiah 43:2, which says, when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. And the reason why waymakers, to me, are so important right now is because we are on fire. We are on fire as a society. I don't just mean at work. I mean, as humanity, right? As a collective. Things are really tough right now. We are deep in the wilderness, right? You have people who are strongly resisting progress, strongly resisting the idea that every single person has a right to exist freely, has a right to contribute fully and fairly. And so the greater the resistance, the stronger the persistence must be. For me, waymakers are the persisters, if you will, of this era. So leading intentionally, leading bravely, leading boldly, leading on behalf of the people you are responsible for and responsible with is the only way we get through this thick, hot, right, fiery, difficult time.
Ooh, that is a word. I mean, we could just shut the show down and I'd drop it and be like, okay, go get Waymakers if you don't get it from your friends. But that is true. And I'm glad you said that scripture, because regardless of how folks might identify or believers or unbelievers, that it holds so much truth, because we are in a fiery time right now. When you were reading that, Tara, I was thinking about the three boys in the furnace, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And you feel that fire, right? I feel it in my work. I feel it in life. I'm feeling a lot of different ways, right? And it's spaces like this and having conversations like this that we have to lean into and remind leaders that this isn't optional. This is mandatory. It's mandatory.
Yeah. And it's, I know we always have kind of the business case for diversity conversation. And when you and I were chatting briefly before we went live, one of the things that I was sharing is that we talk about being in DEI. There are all these kind of frameworks, right? And all this language and all these paradigms surrounding this work. And the business case thing for me is just a huge distraction, because people are essentially looking for more and more and more and more proof as a stall tactic, in my opinion. This is not about business case. Are we going to make more profit? Are we going to drive more revenue? Look, businesses will not be sustainable into the future if they do not know how to unleash the talent of the present and the future fully, freely, and fairly. If they cannot do that, which to me is a leadership imperative, right? It's not a DEI construct. It's a leadership imperative. If you can't do that well, you will not be able to lead at all. And if you can't get the best, right, out of your people, your greatest asset, everybody says that, your business won't be sustainable, full stop. So when I'm in with C-suite leaders, I just kind of say to them, look, I'm not going to try to gather all this research and data for you to prove that this is important. If it's important, I'm going to help you do it well. If it's not, like, I'm exiting stage left, and nobody has time for that. But it is a leadership imperative, this work.
1,000%, period, right? It's just like, we don't even have time. Is that where we're at? Trying to convince you that this work is still important?
Yeah.
DEI has been around for over 50 years. Like, what are we talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's here. And I love that you made that statement, because I think Waymakers, leaders, really need to step up. And it's not enough to say, oh, let's all get back to the office next week, right? Because once everybody gets back to the office, then what? Right? No, then what? And so, like you said, the companies that win at the end of the day are not the ones that are saying, how can we cut this and business, this imperative? This is part of our equitable existence in the workplace. And so that leads me to another question, Tara, because I don't know about you, but I've been in rooms lately where I'm doing, workshops and conversations, and I'll have whoever brought me on to say, some of our leaders are tired, diversity fatigue, do you think you can talk about it in a different way, and so for the leaders that might have lost their way, right, what advice or tools do you have to offer to restart and make their way? Because at some point, maybe all of us are starting to get a little fatigue about the conversation in various ways, right?
Yeah, I think part of why we're getting fatigue about DEI, again, is because we've burdened the idea of fairness with this lexicon that some people have essentially taken over. So whenever you have lexicon or you have language to describe a series of things, right, that kind of come together in a I'll say, in a way that connects in a connected way, we try to label those things and name them so that we can invest in them, so that we can align on them. Like, there are lots of good reasons why we use language the way we do. But then when people take that language and they misinterpret it, right, or use it for different purposes, it starts to carry with it this emotional lag. It becomes burdensome because now it's emotional where it was at one point practical. So what I say is, look, thinking about DEI as some foreign planet that is distant from you, that you have to kind of look at from a distance and analyze and assess and interrogate and figure out, and is BS. Like, that's not what this is. It is not foreign to you. I ask people straight up, have you, talk to me about a time you felt part of the team. You really felt included and that you were part of the team. Talk to me about a time when you felt you could do your best work. Talk to me about a time when you truly felt respected for who you are, what you know, and what you can do. What did leaders do and say to make you feel that way? Anybody, no matter who they are, no matter the dimension of difference they may exist on, can answer those questions for me. At which point I say, you know what it feels like to be included. We're trying to create that for other people. So I honestly tried to get underneath the paradigm. I try to get underneath the language. What does this stuff mean day in and day out? What does it mean you have to choose? What does it mean for your behaviors? What does it mean for the ways you hold yourself accountable? So when people say to me, people are tired of DEI, I say, okay, put that aside. Are you tired of leading? Are you tired of leading? And if they say, no, of course, I say, okay, then let's keep talking.
You're taking us to church with all the tambourine moments. And that's the truth. Like when people say to me, oh, is this about race or gender? No, it's about humanity. Do you want humanity and trust restored in the workplace? You know?
Right. Because if you don't want that, right?
Yeah.
Like if you, like, let's be honest, girl, the times I have had to say to CEOs, hey, look, let's just have a moment here. If it is not important to you to unleash your talent, if it is not important to you that people feel comfortable and safe and free in your workplace, if it is not important to you to be creative and innovative, if it is not important to you to retain the talent that you invest in, then tell me that now, because you can keep doing what you're doing and I can go work with people to whom it is important. I have said that to people and I have quit on companies. I have fired clients who I believe are just saying what they think they should be saying because they're getting pressure from here or there, when I can tell they don't really want to engage in the tough stuff that's going to allow them to move through this murky middle, right? And get to great. If you're not committed to it, I certainly am not committed to it. And I always say, you know, being a little bit facetious, that I don't drag cats out from under beds. Like, this is not complicated. It shouldn't be. It's not easy, but it is simple. And if people really care about these things, again, the sustainability of their business, like do you or don't you, then there are very practical ways to move forward here.
100%. And for people who are so smart in these spaces and, you know, they've gotten hired, like it baffles my mind, Tara, that it's hard for some people to make the connection to freedom in the workplace, safety equals productivity, right? You're not having a revolving door of people coming in and out where money is being thrown in the,
right. And then people don't trust you. And when they don't trust you, what happens when you're in a relationship? Any relationship, Minda, what happens when you're in a relationship where there is no trust? Like, tell me, how do you behave when you're in a relationship with no trust?
Out of control.
Right, out of control. But what else? You hedge your bets. You hedge your bets.
I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm always searching for the next whatever, because I have nothing that shows me that you're invested in my success.
You hedge your bets. You wake up every day and you say to yourself, if we put it in the context of a romantic relationship, with which a lot of people can relate to, what you do is you wake up and you say, I'm going to love you, but only so much. Because if I give you all my love, if I give you, everything I have and you abuse it, then I'm going to be even more hurt. So you essentially, when you have no safety, when you have no credibility, you have no trust around issues of psychological safety, inclusion, belonging, employees are coming to work every day, giving you about 40, 50%. They do not want to open themselves up and pour all their talent onto your table, because the day you decide to flip that table over, guess who's left on the side of the road? Nobody wants to do that. Yeah. It's so that's why, to your point, it's when I'm like, you want me to pull you some data for that? Can you not, like, if you thought about it for 1 minute, even 60 seconds, you would recognize that this is some very human-centric stuff. It is not as complicated as we want to make it. When we make things complicated when we don't want to do them. That's what we do. Look, I just started working out with a personal trainer again a couple of weeks ago because I had fallen off the wagon and got run over by it. lots of bad things happened. All that time when I was off the wagon, you know what I was doing? I was making excuses. Oh, well, I just don't have time, and I don't, it's too early, and I need 8 hours of sleep. And I was making all these excuses. I was making it hard for myself, because the harder I could make it in my mind, the better I could feel about not doing it. That's what some leaders are doing right now around this work.
And that's why everyone needs to be purchasing Waymakers. Get it for your leader. If you have one of those leaders that we're talking about that still doesn't get it, doesn't understand it, whatever the case may be, we're dropping the link in the chat. Make sure you get the book. This is great for even your book clubs, to have these conversations, because you may not feel comfortable saying, hey, bro, you need to be doing a better job, but they can have the tools in their hand. And that leads me to another question, Tara, is you have a proprietary Waymaker study. What did you set out to learn, and what did you learn?
Yeah, I love this question, and I thank you so much for asking it, because it was honestly one of the most enriching experiences for me in writing the Waymakers. And one thing I want to kind of add to your last point really quickly, the Waymakers is a very insightful guide for people who still don't quite get it, but it is also an extremely useful guide for people who do understand that there's an issue, but don't really know what to do about it. Like, I found that people weren't getting off the fence because they didn't know what to do, or they were afraid to do it. So the reason the subtitle is Clearing the Path to Workplace Equity, Competence and Confidence is because competence and confidence were the things people were missing, right? It's a great book for people who do care, do have a heart to lead, who want to do better, but they feel paralyzed by what they don't know. Or the fear of making mistakes. So I just wanted to kind of share that this is a really good tool for those people as well. So the proprietary research study, here's what I wanted to understand, and it kind of connects to what I just said about the Waymakers being a practical tool. I did not want to write a theoretical book. I did not want to write an overly, academic book, although I appreciate academia, right? And I am a big, voracious learner. Like, I consume data like a crazy person. I wanted to write a useful guide. So I knew in order to do that, I was going to have to, again, get underneath, like get to the choices and behaviors leaders can make to create more equitable and inclusive workplaces. So in my work, I've learned over time that people want to feel seen, respected, valued, and protected. I try to make things simple for people. When I say seen, I mean they want to be, acknowledged and credited and represented. When I say respected, I mean they want to be, respected for what they know, again, what they can do and who they are. When I say valued, I mean they want to be paid, they want to be promoted, but they also want to be appreciated. When I say protected, they want to be buffered, they want to be guided, they want to be defended. These are the things that people want to experience. I set out to understand what creates that experience for them specifically. So what we did is we asked hundreds, I did this in partnership with Brand Trust. We asked hundreds of employees across all dimensions of difference to tell us their stories. It was a narrative inquiry study. Stories of times they felt seen, respected, valued, and protected. They also told us stories of times they felt invisible, disrespected, underappreciated, and scrutinized. We scanned those stories for patterns. What we were looking for were leadership choices and behaviors that enabled those emotional end states, and leadership choices and behaviors that worked against them. We also found in the stories that it wasn't only leader choices and behaviors. In some cases, it was colleague choices and behaviors. So we drew all of that out of the stories and I put it in the book, which is essentially like, look, this is what people want to experience. These are the reasons why they don't experience them today, right? I named the barriers. I defined the barriers. I brought the barriers to life for people in daily situations, and then said, here are the things you need to go do to remove them and create these emotional end states, which is going to get you ultimately, what do businesses have to gain? There's a whole chapter on that. It's going to help you with attraction. It's going to help you with retention. It's going to help you with belonging, and it's going to help you with business innovation. Ultimately, if you do it well.
That's so good. I see in the chat somebody said, "Can everybody be a Waymaker?" Tara, is that possible? Can we all be Waymakers?
Yes, anybody can be a Waymaker if you care enough, right, about your colleagues and the environment beyond your nose. You know, one of the things I talk about in the book is we all say, oh, we care about humanity. We care, you know, we say that, but sometimes we kind of stop at a donation, right? We stop at an encouraging word. If we realized that we truly are interconnected, right? That when everybody feels safe, we all feel safe. That when everyone feels that they can achieve their highest aspiration, that bar gets higher. If we realize that and truly appreciated that, then we would do more, right, to help cultivate those kinds of environments. When I wrote the book initially for people with power and position, and I realized as I was writing it and as the early people were reading it, that it was for people beyond that, because we all have insight, access, or opportunity that we can offer to people. You know, I talk about power in the workplace as those who have the insight, access, and opportunity. So everybody might know something that you don't know if you're on the outside looking in, right? That's the insight. You can share it. That's what Waymakers do. You may have access to a person because you have a relationship someone else does not have. You can share that. That's waymaking, right? So those are the ways that anybody can be a waymaker, just by taking some of that power and reaching out and drawing in and sharing the power.
I love that so much. Listen, go ahead. If you have not gotten Waymakers, make sure that you get that in your cart now. And if you're in a position where, hey, Minda, things are tight right now, call your local library and request it there. But the other thing I want you to do as homework is tag somebody in this chat so that they can learn about what they can do to be a Waymaker. If they're feeling stalled, if they don't get it, what we're talking about, whatever the thing, I know you know somebody who could benefit from today's conversation and having this book in their toolkit. Tara, you know that I could talk to you all day long, but we have to go to our bonus questions. Since you've been on the show before, I know we've discussed grits, but I have to, instead of asking how you like your grits today, I'm going to ask you, when's the last time you've had a good bowl of grits?
I had grits on Sunday. I made grits and eggs and bacon and waffles. So I had grits on Sunday, and yes, I do have my grits with salt and pepper and cheese. And I know this is a very emotional topic, but
very emotional. It drives a wedge in the community versus sweet and savory, but a woman after my own heart. For all of us leaders out there, what is one piece of advice that you would give everyone to make the workplace better than we found it?
I would say one piece of advice I would give everyone to make the workplace better than we found it is to build a bridge between yourself and someone who is not like you. I still believe that relationships are the great accelerator here. They're not everything, but they help us move faster, right? They give us a deeper appreciation for other lived experiences. They open our minds and our hearts to new ways of looking at the world. And the waymakers who are most effective take the time to broaden their own horizons. So build a bridge is probably the best advice I can possibly give.
That's a great piece of advice as we go into the week. We all can build a bridge, right? And as you were saying that, I was thinking about the prophetess Whitney Houston. She said, teach them well and let them lead the way. This is what we need people to be doing. Give them the tools to be able to be waymakers.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Minda. I love talking to you, and I'm just grateful, that you always kind of invite me to share space with your beautiful community. We do need more waymakers, and I'll say, having the opportunity to hear from so many people who have now read it. Like, I think the first time you and I talked about the book, it wasn't necessarily deep in the world at that point, but we've been at this for 9 months, and the stories I've been able to hear and just how useful it's been for people and how validating even for people like us. Like I didn't write it for us. I wrote it for people who needed to treat us better, to be honest. But it's been a validating tool for us as well. And that has blessed me, right? You always get the surprises when you put a book into the world. And this has been a surprising journey that I do not take for granted. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. It's such a great book. And where can people find you, connect with you, work with you?
Yes, please follow me on LinkedIn, which is where I do most of my running of the mouth. And I'm easy to find, Tara Jaye Frank. I'm also on Instagram at Tara Jaye Frank, TaraJayefrank. I have recently entered the TikTok verse. So I kind of share a couple of thoughts there as well. And I'm on Twitter at Tara initial J Frank.
We'll drop your website and everything in the chat, but
great.
Follow Tara, get the book. Let's keep the conversation going. Tara, have a great week. Thank you for how you are being a Waymaker for us. Sending you lots of love.
Love you too. Thank you.
Oh, that was such a great episode. Again, this is what the book looks like. So go on and get it wherever you like to buy your books. Because it is Black History Month, if you don't have the book yet, think about supporting a Black-owned bookstore or woman-owned bookstore. That would be great. I'm going to have Michael come up because now I'm like choking. Mike, we're going to do our affirmation for the month. I'm getting all choked up from all this good information that we got today. Great show, right?
Amazing show. A lot of insight. It's always good to have Tara on. She's family. It felt right today. It was amazing.
As we go into this new month, March this week for Women's History Month, we need a lot of people being Waymakers, building those bridges, as Tara said. And so, again, the link is in the chat. Make sure you do it. But what is we're at the end of the month, brother. What is the affirmation so people can just seep it into their system and just think about it as they're going into the rest of the week?
Yes, mistakes are not your final destination. I think at the end of February, kind of that New Year's lull kind of sits in where you've made all your promises in December. You've made all your promises at the end of November, and you said, January 1st, I'm going to kill the game. This is going to be my year. And you made a lot of promises. And at the end of February, we kind of look at our beginning and we're like, man, 2 months have gone. I haven't hit this business goal. I haven't done this. And, Tara was talking about the gym, and that reminds me, I haven't been to the gym either. I don't know, and we're so difficult and hard on ourselves, yet so forgiving of certain chosen people in our lives. And so we have to understand that mistakes are not our final destination. Whatever you deem to be a mistake, whatever you think is a mistake, could simply be a redirection by God, just to simply put you in the right direction, simply point you in the right direction, to let you understand that maybe you weren't ready to work 15 hours straight and do 29 speeches and do this. Maybe you need a break. Maybe this job not working out. Maybe you wouldn't have fit in that company. Maybe you needed to stay put. The reason why things happen and the reason why mistakes happen are sometimes irrelevant. We have to understand that mistakes are not your final destination. Don't dwell in your mistakes, just like you love to forgive your sons, daughters, your friends, your family. Forgive yourself. Work on self-healing, self-forgiveness, because if you can't forgive yourself, it's kind of hard to move forward in the things that are created and made for you. So our affirmation this month is mistakes are not your final destination.
Yes. Listen, you're going into the next month. It's the third month of the year. Let's not beat ourselves up for certain things. I wrote a book called Right Within. How you going to win if you ain't right within? That self-healing that Michael talks about, that self-forgiveness, it's very key, very important going forward. And I know, again, there's a lot going on in the world, and we're busy. I feel like, I don't have any data to support this, but I feel like we're more busy than we ever been, just working from home, doing all the things. And so there are some moments that we might forget to do something. There might be a time we're a little late to get on that Zoom meeting, but don't demonize yourself forgiveness is important. Forgiveness is available to you today. And we need you to be your most healthiest self. So badgering yourself or beating yourself up is not your most healthiest self. So mistakes are not your final destination. Lastly, I'll say, for those who may not know, I started a Secure the Seat book club where I choose a book each month and we read it together in community. And so today we'll drop the link in the chat, but even if you didn't get a chance to read this month's book about boundaries, join us for the conversation right here on LinkedIn Audio. Every month there'll be a new book. So join in, share the link with others, even if you only get a chance to read one chapter. Again, I know we're all busy, but every month I'll choose a new book to add to our toolkit. And so we'll drop that. It's right on LinkedIn Audio. You don't have to get dressed up. You don't have to get on the screen. It's all all audio. And so we'll be able to have those conversations. But sending you lots of love. I don't know what's going on in everybody's life, but again, I know there's a lot going on. So be kind to yourself and keep securing your seat. We'll see you next Monday.